Welcome to the Midlife Edit. This is a podcast for women who aren't broken, just becoming. For the ones who've spent years showing up, holding it together, and doing what was expected, and are now asking quieter, braver questions. This season is about turning the volume up on your voice, your health, your boundaries, your desires, and the life you actually want to live. No fixing, no pretending, just honest conversations about confidence, money, hormones, happiness, and coming back to yourself, with a little music along the way. I'm Jen, and this is the Midlife Edit. Hey there, and welcome back to the Midlife Edit. Today's episode is one I knew I needed to slow down and really sit with. In fact, I've rewritten the script a few times, and I've even re-recorded it, because the question I'm about to ask sounds so simple, but it's anything but. So I'm going to start the episode off with this question to you. What do you actually want? Not what you should want, not what's practical, not what looks good on paper, not what keeps everyone else comfortable. What you want. And if that question immediately makes you feel uncomfortable or overwhelmed or even a little bit emotional, it's not a coincidence. That's the work. And the podcast, my company, it's called the Midlife Edit, right? So I'm talking to you as I'm going through midlife in this journey, all the things that are going on with me, but also all the things that I'm learning. And here's something that I've learned about midlife. For a long time, our lives are about momentum. It's like hustle culture, right? And hustle culture doesn't necessarily have to be reserved for corporate world or work or anything like that. Think about hustle. Think about it in the corporate world, or as you're building your own business, you're hustling, right? You hustle hard. But then say you're not in that space. Say you're a stay-at-home mom or a working mom. You're hustling that way too, right? You are making sure that you get to the PTA meetings and that this kid gets to this practice and that one gets to that practice, or sleepovers and birthday parties and homework and all of the things that go into raising children and keeping a house together, right? Paying bills and keeping it clean and doing laundry and grocery shopping, all of the things. So there's hustle culture everywhere. And for a long time, that's what your life was about. You're moving and you're building and you're managing and you're handling all of the things. But then one day, you take a minute, you pause long enough to hear yourself think. You do the what I call sit in your shit moment. And suddenly the question becomes unavoidable. Is this it? Is this all that I have to look forward to? Is this still working for me? What do I want now? Not because your life is bad, but because you've changed. And I say it almost once every episode, but midlife isn't a crisis. It's your time to edit. And it's your time to get honest with yourself about what you want now and what your future is going to look like. So let's take gratitude versus desire and reframe it. I want to say this clearly because I know a lot of women struggle here. You can be grateful and still want more. You can love your life and still feel restless. You can be so damn proud of what you've built, but still feel disconnected from it. Those things are not mutually exclusive. It's okay to have those feelings. Desire doesn't cancel gratitude. Desire is information. So, why do we struggle to answer this question? Think about it just for a second. Because most of us were never taught to ask ourselves what we want. I mean, were you? And if you were, amazing. I love that. But a lot of us, again, in the generation that I grew up in, we were taught to be accommodating and reliable and always agreeable and be the steady one. Because If you wanted too much, that was labeled as selfish. And if you wanted something different, that was ungrateful. And if you wanted to change something, you were all of a sudden dramatic. So we learned how to adapt instead of how to ask. And this time in your life, midlife, it's often the first time that that strategy stops working because you're waking up a little bit, right? And you're going, oh, okay, well, that's not how I want to live life anymore. So let's take it a little bit deeper and talk about wants versus should. A lot of what we think is wanting is actually conditioning. I should want to slow down. I should want to be content. I should want to stop caring so much. But real wanting, it doesn't sound like that. The real wanting often starts as, I don't want to feel this tired anymore, or I don't want to keep saying yes to everything, or I don't want to live on autopilot. And that counts. Because sometimes the first honest answer isn't what you want, it's what you're done tolerating. This season, I committed to putting a song with every episode because I love music and I want to base this podcast. I wanted to have a musical background because music means a lot to a lot of people. So the song that I chose for this episode is Fast Car by Tracy Chapman. And if you know the song, you know exactly why. That song's not just about escape. It's about hope. It's about imagining something different, even if you don't fully know what that looks like yet. There's a lyric in the song that says, I had a feeling that I belonged. And that line hits so hard in midlife. Because wanting isn't always about leaving. Sometimes it's about finally belonging to yourself. Think about that one. For so long, you belonged to everybody else. Whether, and I don't mean physically, but like your time belonged to somebody else, or your plans, or your wants and your needs weren't yours, right? So I had a feeling that I belonged. Could finally just be belonging to yourself. All right, so we're saying, okay, maybe I'm starting to think about what I actually want. And even when you start to feel that, asking for it is the hardest part. Because asking carries risk. And we're afraid of being dismissed or being told we're asking for too much or being rejected or hearing that we're creating some kind of discomfort or hearing the word no. So instead, we hint. And if my husband is listening to this right now, which I know he probably is, he's going to be like, yeah, she drops hints all the time. But guys, if somebody doesn't pick up on your hint, it's not your fault, or it's not their fault, right? So we hint and we minimize, or we wait and just hope that somebody picks up on it, or maybe we just stay quiet to keep the peace. But guess what happens? Resentment starts to build. And here's the truth. If you don't ask for what you want, people will keep giving you what you've always accepted. Not because they're cruel, but because they don't know any different. How, and I say this all the time, in my work life or even in my home life, if I don't know about the problem, I can't fix it, right? So if I'm not telling somebody what I want, how are they supposed to know? But ready for this one? Ready for this big bomb I'm about to drop on you? Most women aren't afraid of asking. They're afraid of what the answer might reveal. What if I want what if I want something that isn't supported? Or what if it changes things? Or ready, here's the scary one. What if it changes me? But here's the hard-earned midlife wisdom. Silencing yourself costs way more than speaking up. So let's talk about asking for what we want. Asking is information and not a demand. Asking for what you want is not a threat. It's not an ultimatum, and it's not selfish. I'm going to say that again. Asking for what you want is not selfish. It's information. It sounds like, I'm realizing I need something different. Or I'm trying to be honest about what's working for me and what's not. Ready? Ready for this one? I don't have all the answers yet, but I do know that this matters. You don't need confidence first. In fact, you're not going to have the confidence first because you build confidence by practicing honesty. So, let's make this tangible. Let's talk about how to start it. How to start acting. Let me start that sentence over again. Let's talk about how to start asking. And you know me, I like the steps, right? So, get out your little notes app or your actual notepad or something and write these down. Step 1, name it privately. Before you say anything out loud, get honest with yourself. What do I need more of? What do I need less of? What feels heavy that didn't used to? That's it. Just name it privately, just to yourself. Write it down. Writing down always makes it more real, in my opinion, even typing it out. So don't keep it in your head. So type it in your notes app or write it down somewhere on a post-it or in your journal or something, but name it. Get honest with yourself. What do you need more of? What do you need less of? And what feels heavy that didn't used to? Step 2, start small. You don't begin with the biggest life conversation, right? Talk about not doing it and being completely overwhelmed. Practice with space or time, boundaries, support. Small asks build self-trust. So again, just something small. Like, for example, hey, this week I need a night with 3 hours to myself. That's asking for time and space and putting up boundaries and asking for support. That's it. Start small. Step 3, this is the one that I always have trouble with, but stop over-explaining. Friends, you don't need to earn your needs. You don't need to justify them into nothing. You're not asking permission. You're just communicating. So stop the over-explaining. Just say, this is what I want, and that's it. Not because I earned it or because you did X, Y, and Z. No, this is what I want, period. So this is exactly why I created this fun quiz that goes with this episode. It's not something super techy, you know. It's pretty, it's fun, and it's called What Do You Actually Want Right Now? Because sometimes the hardest part isn't asking, it's knowing what to ask for. So the quiz that I created helps you name what you're craving in this season, whether it's space, strength, expression, or stability. So you're not grasping for words when it matters the most. And once you do that quiz and you figure out which one you're craving the most, you'll get your results. And I put a 1-page guide on how to ask for what you want with it. And that guide's going to tell you exactly what I said, how to ask for you, exactly what I said, and I can't even say it. Exactly what I said, how to ask for what you want, but without over-explaining or apologizing. So I linked the quiz in the show notes. So make sure that you check that out. I'll probably put it on my socials too, but check out the quiz. You just go through it, and you know what it reminds me of, and this is kind of where I got the idea. I like the BuzzFeed quizzes, and I like the quizzes where you can click right away. But do you remember back in the day when Cosmo had those quizzes and you like tallied up how many A's did you get, how many B's did you get? That's how this is. So you go through the quiz, you get, if you got mostly A's, you're this, mostly B's, whatever, and you click it and it'll get you your result. So check it out. It's fun, but it's also going to help you. And that's what this platform is for, right? That's why I started this, because I wanted a space where I could talk about what was going on in my life, but also how to help women go through the same things. Because we all need to lean on each other, right? We're in this together. So let's start asking for what we want and not be afraid to do it. And this is where we're going next, because asking the question, it's only the beginning, right? And I know all of this can seem so scary. But again, you're going through a time of self realization, and it's time to step up and ask for what you want. So, next week's episode, we're going to talk about okay, we asked for what we want. Now what? And I want to preface this by saying you're not always going to get what you want, right? I mean, the Rolling Stones said it in a song a gazillion years ago. Can't always get what you want, but you can always ask for it, right? So we ask for what we want. Now what? What happens when you go after it? What happens when you don't get it? And what happens when things change or when they don't? How do you move forward without shrinking yourself or blowing everything up? That's where we're going next week, because I want this to be positive and a great platform to talk about, but real life, it's not always positive. And you're not always going to hear yes. So let's figure out what to do when we do get what we want and what to do when we don't. Make sure you check out the quiz in the show notes. Please figure it out. I want to hear what you are. And if you're not comfortable with sharing it, that's okay. But you can share it with me in an email or a DM, or share it on social media and talk about this awesome quiz that you found. Midlife isn't about becoming somebody new. It's about telling the truth about who you are now. You're allowed to want things that don't make sense yet, and you're allowed to change your mind. I talk about it all the time and how many times I've changed mine. You're allowed to take up space in your own life because it's yours. Start small, start honest, but start now. And if all you know right now is what you don't want anymore, that's still an answer. If you love this episode, and if this resonated with you and you know somebody that needs to hear this, please share. But the best thing that you could do for me and my podcast is share, subscribe, and like. I would appreciate it so very much. Check out the quiz. Super excited to hear what your results are. And thank you so much for being here. Again, I appreciate you all the time. So until next week, this is the Midlife Edit, and we're going to make it a damn good chapter. You've been listening to the Midlife Edit. If something in this episode stayed with you, I hope you sit with it, not rush past it, because this season is about listening to yourself and to what's quietly asking for more. If you want to stay connected between episodes, you can join the Backstage Pass. That's where I share behind-the-scenes notes, playlists, and things that don't always make it onto the podcast. You'll find the link in the show notes. And if this episode resonated with you, it would mean so much if you'd subscribe, rate, and leave a review. It's the easiest way to support the show and help more women find it. So until next time, turn the volume up, and let's make it a damn good chapter.